Hey guys, this is me, Kevin Murphy, on my channel called Narcissistic Abuse, Learning Who I Am Again. In this video, I'm going to talk about narcissistic relationship closure and how us narcissistic survivors want and desire that closure from that relationship so badly. And we get so disappointed when we don't receive the closure that we feel we deserve. So I'm going to break it down to you incredibly direct. If you are a narcissistic survivor and you're either in the discard phase or you found out about narcissistic personality disorder and you feel that your partner that you were in a relationship with match all of the things that the narcissist, what narcissistic personality disorder is, you're never going to get closure. You're never going to get that I'm sorry. You're never going to get that, I was wrong. You're never going to get that that narcissist to take responsibility or be accountable to their faults in the relationship. It's never going to happen. So the worst thing to do when you're in a relationship, when you're ending a relationship with a narcissist, is to try to convince them that they were wrong, or that what they did was wrong, and things like that. The best thing to do when you're ending a relationship with a narcissist, or if the narcissist has discarded you, is to move on. You have to grieve the process. And I know a lot of you viewers are probably saying, well, what am I grieving? I mean, the narcissist was toxic, the narcissist treated me poorly, the narcissist did all of these things, ran up my credit, totaled my cars, took my things, whatever your circumstances are with the ex narc in your life. There is a grieving process, and even toxic relationships are considered a sense of loss, because you have developed a soul tie with this person. You have developed a certain dependency within that relationship. Not saying that it was right, and really doesn't matter whether it was right or wrong, but the reality is there was a soul tie that was built within that relationship, and over time. And you're going to, it's the narcissist is almost like a drug, and you're going to have to take some time to detox from that narc in your life. So when you found yourself being dumped, or if you find yourself you found yourself having that aha moment where you realize that this narcissist is not the person that he or she said that they were. I am going to take my life back, and I'm going to make the conscious decision to leave take this person out of my life. You have to really, really grieve that relationship, because while you were in that relationship, you were under this illusion that this person was this thing that they weren't. This person, you may have thought that this person was very caring, very compassionate, very empathetic, and the narcissist was none of those things. It was all a sham. It was all a game to try to get you to put your guard down and get you to fully trust and be obedient to them. Because to the narcissist, you were not an individual. You're not a confident and whole person. To the narcissist, you're like a slave. You're less than human to a person who is a narcissist. So you're going to have to possibly go into therapy. You're possibly going to, I wouldn't even say possibly go into therapy. You're going to definitely have to go into therapy, because you're going to experience possible triggers. You're going to experience possible PTSD symptoms, or, what I call narcissistic fleas, where you start to act and behave like the narcissist. And narcissistic fleas is something where you've been around a narcissist or you've been exposed to a toxic person and you start to behave and act and respond to certain situations in the same fashion the narcissist in your life has responded to things. So for example, let's say the narcissist or the ex-narcissist in your life hates traffic, and that narcissist will sit there and bitch and complain about being in traffic and say things like, "Oh my gosh, I hate this traffic. I hate being stuck in traffic." Now, mind you, this narcissist knows that at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it's inevitable that there's going to be rush hour traffic. But like clockwork, that narcissist will continuously complain that there's traffic on Route 1, or there's traffic on 95, there's traffic on so and so and so. And you being with the narcissist or being present while this narcissist is complaining about traffic, you start complaining about traffic. It's almost like I was talking about in the last video, narcissistic mirroring. Not only does the narcissist mirror you, but you also can mirror the narcissist. And when you are mirroring the narcissist, you have adopted what they call narcissistic fleas. And that's why it's important to go to seek therapy, go to talk to someone professional who knows a lot about narcissistic personality disorder and who can really help you heal. Because if you don't heal and you don't get the help that you so much deserve, you can become and adapt some negative traits that the narcissist has had throughout your relationship. So narcissistic fleas is something that you really want to prevent in your life, and the best way to prevent that is to really get help and to really watch these videos and to really educate yourself on what narcissistic personality disorder is, what is PTSD, what is anxiety disorder, because these are things that are very common after and post narcissistic abuse. So those are some things that you should really keep in mind when you're leaving your narcissist. And it's part of the grieving process too. One of the other things I would suggest too, because that narcissist will find a way to hoover you back in, and I will definitely talk about narcissistic hoovering in another video. But I'll give you a brief definition of what hoovering is. Hoovering is when the narcissist tries to suck you back in. So it's like the Hoover vacuum. So they'll try to hook you back in by text messages, by phone calls. It's almost like a form of love bombing. So they'll sit there, so they restart the love bombing, the cycle of abuse again. So that the narcissist may have either lost the new supply, or the new supply may have found out about them, and so they're keeping you on the back burner. And that narcissist will call you sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 months to a year, 2, 3 years out of the blue and start saying, "Hey baby, I haven't heard from you in a while. How you doing? How's everything going? What's good?" Like, that's narcissistic hoovering. And they'll start, during that hoovering process, they'll start telling you how nice you look. They'll start saying that, "I miss you. I was a fool. I'm so sorry." Do not fall for that. Do not, under any circumstances, allow yourself to be hoovered back in by your narcissist. If you're watching these videos, if you are getting counseling and getting help post narcissistic abuse, and you have learned that this person that's trying to hoover you back in was a narcissist, do not accept their phone calls, do not accept their text messages, do not block them. Block their phone numbers, block them on social media, block any kind of way that they, or method that they can contact you. Because once they hoover you back in, you're re-traumatizing yourself, and all of the work that you have done, it goes out the window. I'm speaking from experience. So the narcissist, when they have not, once a narcissist finds a new supply, that's when the discard is going to happen. That's when you know that the discard is right around the corner. The narcissist usually discards their victims or survivors once they have a new supply lined up for them. So they'll have a new victim or a new person that they are getting all the attention and all the grandiosity and all of the things that you used to do for the narcissist. They're getting it from somebody else. And so when the narcissist starts hoovering you back in, that's usually the new supply has either has either woken up to the fact that this person is a jerk, or they have woken up to the, or that new supply has had enough, or that narcissist has discarded that new supply. They're no fun anymore. They're not exciting anymore. So they keep you on the back burner. And you don't want to be that girl or that guy where, oh, I'm bored. I'm going to call Susan back up. Or I'm bored. I'm going to call Johnny back up. Do. Hey, how's it going? How you doing? I know it's been a minute, but no, do not fall for that. And that's what keeps survivors in bondage. That's what keeps narcissistic survivors in a place of just being stuck and not and feeling like, oh, I'm not recovering. You're not recovering because you're still exposing yourself to that narcissist. And what you have to do is you have to be disciplined. Even if you have to get an accountability partner, even if you have to get somebody in your life that well knows narcissistic abuse, narcissistic personality disorder. That person could be your therapist. That person could be your best friend. That person could be an aunt, an uncle, whoever it is. You are going to need some form of accountability, strong accountability, post narcissistic abuse, because when we're just getting out of the relationship and we haven't properly grieved, we are still vulnerable to that hoovering. And that narcissist knows that vulnerability because of that soul tie, because of that enmeshment. So they are going to test you by telling you everything you want to hear, by saying I'm sorry, by saying that I messed up and I didn't mean it and things like that. It's all BS. It's all BS. It's all BS. So the best thing to do is to not seek closure, because you're never going to get it. And the best closure you can get is just distancing yourself from the narcissist and coming to terms that that person that you fell in love with is a lie. And it's not your fault. It is not your fault. So those who are watching this, please recognize that this is not your fault. That this person is toxic. And 9 times out of 10, codependents who fall prey into relationships like that have been abused before, and as a child. It all starts from that original care provider. It all starts from that original wound in your life, and you start to operate because it's familiar. It's familiar to continuously be persistent when that narcissist is minimizing you. It's normal for you to feel like, oh, I need to work harder, even though this narcissist is not paying any attention to me. If the narcissist says I'm sorry, you've learned that this is normal to always take him back, and you are under no obligation to take anybody back that is abusing you. You're under no obligation to deal with that. The only obligation that you have to yourself is to forgive the abuser in your life. And I have said this many times, and I mean what I say. Forgive the abuser in your life. That is key to recovering, is forgiving that abuser. And forgiving that abuser does not mean you enter in relationship with them. Forgiveness means that you have come to terms with that, the fact that this person is narcissistically disordered, this person is toxic, and I'm not toxic. That I have my programming is off, and I fell prey to a person who pretended to be something that to be something that I wanted as my ideal. Not your fault. It doesn't make you toxic. But when you come to terms that that person is disordered, and that person is not who you fell in love with, you can forgive. And when I say forgive, it means to let go of that person. You let go of that person and you move on by getting the help and the treatment that you deserve and that you need, and you move on to somebody else that will bring out the best in you. And I don't encourage you to move on to a new relationship until late months and months and months and months down the road, because you have a lot of healing to do. And part of that healing process involves you forgiving your abuser. And it sounds counterintuitive. It sounds very, very, passive, but it's not. Because forgiveness is different than going back to allowing the abuse. You have learned that, this person is disordered. This person has an issue. But I'm going to let them go, and I'm going to, wish them well from a distance. From a distance. I'm going to wish them well from a distance. Whether it's journaling about it, releasing all the anger, releasing all of the pain that you experience. It's important to go through all of that, because after post-narcissistic abuse, recovery is one of the hardest things I've ever dealt with in my life. And it can be very, very difficult, but it's worth it, because the recovery process, you thinking about the recovery process will allow you to rethink the next time you wanting or desiring to be with another narcissist, because you don't want to go through that recovery process. But forgiveness is one of the best ways to get closure from that relationship. You forgive, because forgiveness, that person is not living rent-free in your mind anymore. That person, you're not harboring grudges against that person anymore. You're free to be who you are, separate and apart from that person. You don't run the risk of narcissistic fleas or lashing out inappropriately to friends and to people in your life who are supporting you, who don't deserve your wrath. That's forgiveness. That is showing that you have done your work and done what you need to do in order to move on. And it's very, very important to do that. So, in a nutshell, don't expect any closure from the narcissist. Instead, move on, recognize who they are, and get the help and the and the support that you need through this recovery, because you're going to definitely need it. Do not, whatever you do not accept the narcissist's phone calls. Once that relationship is over, it's over. You don't have to accept their phone calls. You don't have to accept their text messages. You don't have to accept their IMs. You don't have to accept their Facebook messages, Twitters, Instagram, anything. I would block them on everything. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, phone, text. I would totally block them, and I would let them go. I would release them. That's the forgiveness. You're releasing that abuser out of your life. You're forgiving them. You're saying that, and the way to forgive them is by constantly telling yourself, this person has a personality disorder. This person is not right in their mind. And I am choosing to walk away from that relationship. And I hope and wish, even if you don't feel that way, even if you don't feel like wishing that abuser well, and you feel like going crazy and saying, "Oh, F them," and so and so and so, you have to you 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 have to let it out. You can let that out by journaling. And I'm speaking from experience because this has worked for me. You let it out by journaling, and you can talk to a friend and things like that. I'm not saying don't experience the anger part, because you're going to experience it. That's part of the recovery process. You're going to experience sadness, you're going to experience guilt, you're going to experience anger, and then you're going to experience peace. And I'm starting to experience peace. I experienced anger. I was tearing up things. I was pissed off all the time. But the thing is, you cannot stay in that place. You have, and that's why forgiveness is very important. Because if you stay in that place of anger, then that narcissist is still in your mind, just talking, 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 talking. So you've got to get that narcissist out of your head through forgiveness, and don't depend on them for closure, because you're not going to get it from them. The best way to get closure is to work on yourself, seek counsel, and really, really, really stick to your recovery. So my next video, I'm going to probably do either tomorrow or Thursday. Please subscribe if you have not subscribed, or if you have a topic in mind that you want me to discuss or you want me to talk about, please feel free to email me at kevinmurphy28@yahoo.com. I try to get around to checking my email once a day. Some days I miss checking it, but I'm very good about checking my email at least every other day. So thank you very much for watching my video. This is Kevin Murphy, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.